And I think we are just facing the end of that paradigm in such a dramatic way. And so anyone who says awareness does not matter has not read the newspaper.
It's an honor to have you. I'd love to start out by just introducing you. Obviously, you are a seasoned corporate operator. You've worked at Audible, Monster.com, and most recently, you were the CEO of Total Brain, which leverages neuroscience to optimize mental performance, mental fitness. I'd love it if you could start by just giving us a Cliff Notes version of Total Brain.
Yes. Total Brain, in a nutshell, is there to help raise awareness with some objective facts about my brain or my heart through heart rate variability, which is a very strong metrics for well-being. And so that was all predicated upon me coming out of a very strong personal self-discovery experience where I said, how can I talk to my friends? How can I share this? I should be able to know how this has changed me. And so neuroscience came into my life as a way to measure the impact of the experiences I had. So self-monitoring is the first piece that Total Brain offers. And based on what we see, we're looking at brain capacities of 4 functions, starting with the emotions that are non-conscious. So we're going to look at one's negativity bias, one's emotional flexibility. What are you equipped with to deal with your emotions? What is going to come up to you when you're going to be triggered by life? So emotions are going to give you feelings, are going to affect the way that you think, your memory, your focus, your executive planning, and it's going to affect how you show up, your self-regulation. And so we track 12 markers of these 4 types of capacities. And we also measure stress through HRV. And we also detect the likelihood of 7 mental conditions. The idea being that in well-being, your capacity is what matters. And if you have a mental health issue, your capacity should also matter. It's not just about solving symptoms, it's about creating capacity. So we offer the monitoring and the self-care piece based on what we see on the capacities and the risk. And we give people custom programs that are trying to, that are not married to any solution. And I do not pretend that a digital solution is any solution or one, so like it's part of a series of things. For me, the most important is the awareness piece, because you can do a lot more outside of an app than you can in an app. But in that app, we're going to have positive psychology, meditation, breathing, and the classic, including neuro music. So we're very, very broad. And we try to support people in helping themselves be more capable mentally.
Yes, it's beautiful. And I love the self-awareness piece. Obviously, you are a very driven, committed professional, and it must have taken a lot of self-awareness on your part, self-study on your part, to finally say, I want to pull back. I'm going to resign from being a CEO of this company. You've been in the corporate world in these operating positions for so long. You have so many people who are counting on you, the board, your employees. It's a life-changing decision. I'd love to hear what life lessons and what insights from your work at Total Brain did you actually utilize in your decision-making process to make this life-changing decision? What can people learn from you?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So what does not, the story that doesn't make the press releases, I'm going to share with you a little bit.
Okay.
December 2020, I got COVID. I was down for 15 days and recovered after that, and had a trip to Hawaii, long flight. I had a problem with my legs, real pain in my legs. I thought it was my pickleball game, because I totally got into pickleball during COVID. And so I came back from Hawaii with multiple DVTs, deep vein thrombosis, and multiple pulmonary embolies. And we thought at the time that it was likely linked to COVID. And I had 3 days after I got out of the intensive care units to go back to work to make a deal happen, which needed to happen. And I knew that what life was telling me in that first instance is, Louis, you're not going the right way about the whole thing. Yes, you are capable, but you are taking it all on you. Where is your faith? When are you going to trust the universe first, instead of saying, I'm going to fix the world and then I'll ask for help? I realized, my friend, that my faith was not what I projected it to be. Because otherwise I looked like a pretty solid guy doing the right things, et cetera, et cetera. But deep down, life put a mirror in front of me and said, look, I will not let you continue to take it all on you. You are gonna have to change. But then the circumstances were such that I could not change. I went back into the stupid rhythm, being a public company, having a delay of a big deal that was delayed 18 months, completely made us very stressed. And so in August, I did it again. 3 or 4 months later, same thing. And I had a week this time before I went back to the next emergency. And when I came back, every cell in my body was telling me, you don't get it. And we're going to take you down. And this time around, there is not going to be a third time. Just take notice. You have to do something. And so I listened to my body. I listened to life. And when you go down to realizing what you love, realizing who you love, and realizing that that's what's at stake. What the investor thinks, what the board thinks, and what your colleague thinks, you care about deeply, but not at the expense of those who you love. And certainly not at the expense of the one you have to love the most, which is you. And so I basically decided that I needed to, it was not a decision, it was sort of a crescendo. You're in a continuous function as opposed to a step function. And there's a point where you look back and you say, I just crossed the threshold. I can no longer do this. And it coincided in my case with a personal journey where I wanted to open up to the world of energy and energy healing and really dig into that, which my position at Total Brain was taking me into the very objective science-driven neuroscience, mental health field, which was taking me away from those serious interests of mine. And so it kind of just worked out perfectly, where life threw me out and basically said, change. And I had been thinking about changing and diversifying my approach to my life and what I want to do for a few months as well. So it was the perfect kind of situation. It doesn't make it easy. And certainly I decided to stay involved with Total Brain, so it's not a cut, or I can continue to help as much as I can, but I can now redo my energy completely, fill my batteries up again, which really needed it. My last fight cost me a lot of vital energy.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I did read that you had COVID, and I didn't know the entire story, but that release must be so cathartic, and that ease that you have, very healing. Staying on this topic of self-awareness, I know you've said before in the past, and I found it very profound, you've said that people think of self-awareness as quasi, I think you said quasi-spiritual, like a quasi-spiritual concept. And you know, that resonated with me, because a lot of people think of self-awareness as a weakness. Maybe, you know, people who are weak go to that. And oftentimes people don't think it's relevant, because we are not taught to be self-studious in traditional modes of education, right? In business school and K through 12, whatever it is. I want to read you this beautiful quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "What we do not call education is more precious than that which we call so." I think that's so powerful, because at the end of the day, the most important education is the education of self. I know you and I agree that self-study, self-awareness is probably the most vital key in unlocking your human potential, in unlocking the full power of you. And people think of sleep, they think of working out, going to the gym, lifting weights. This is likely supersedes all of those. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that and the misconstruing of this power?
You know, Pooja, this is something that I've thought a lot about, boggles my mind. At 48, being a successful executive with a house and a dog and a blah, 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 with the whole shaboom, I sat on my bum on a cushion, and I realized for the first time of my life that I knew nothing about myself. I didn't know what an emotion was.
Wow. I
didn't know the difference between a heart and a brain. I did not know how stress functions, how the body is actually connected to the mind, and how if you listen to one, you understand the other, and if you affect one, you affect the other. And I did not understand that I was energy. And so back to your question as to why are we not doing it? Why are we looking at like fitness and sleep and nutrition? And because those things relate to matters, to the matter. And we have basically in our health system, and I think in our socioeconomic system, have adopted the Newtonian science that puts matter at the center of everything. So I am a bunch of cells. I have predetermined genes that can be altered with chemical signals that can be sent with medications, or I can take that cell and remove it through surgery. And this is what we consider a health system. Einstein came in and said, matter does not exist. Matter is energy.
Yes.
And we have never taken Einstein to our definitions of healthcare.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we're going to focus on the things that we can see and measure and touch. But the game is actually what makes the whole planet holds together.
Quantum physics.
Yes. So how do we get into that instead, right? And realize that we are all entangled, and my energy affects your energy, and you're giving me a lot, and I can take that and give it back to someone else, and I can heal people, and I can make them feel better, and my presence can actually communicate without words. All of those things is ignorance, sheer ignorance. But what I love is that science is actually beating up science. The scientific materialism era that is coming to an end brought us to the sixth extinction of the planet. This idea that everything is matter, this idea of survival of the fittest, this idea that everything is random mutation, this idea that if you make money, God may like you more, from Calvin way back when, has brought us the capitalist system that we have, based on observable matter, science-driven, observable things, which has been a tremendous success, for which I have defended, believed, stood on. Like, that was me. I was a big part of that system, a small part of that big system. But in the end, that system is killing who we are.
Yeah.
And now, want it or not, energy is moving back in a big way. And the planet itself is saying, life is about balance. Life is not about growth.
Yeah.
You grow when you evolve, but not at a 20% quarterly clip. And I think we are just facing the end of that paradigm in such a dramatic way. And so anyone who says awareness does not matter has not read the newspaper.
Such beautiful wisdom, incredibly profound. And this idea that we measure our success on growth. You know, companies measure their success on profitability, on future revenue. We measure our success on personal growth targets. Everything is based on growth. And also, growth is not present. Growth is future.
Yes.
And I always talk about how that concept creates anxiety, because we're never happy to be here, because we always want to be there, right?
It's so profound what you're saying. I was playing pickleball with a lawyer, investment banker, a friend of mine 2 days ago. And he says, Louis, you know this thing about presence? I said, yes. He said, I hate it. I said, why? He said, that makes me anxious. I would rather be told not to worry about the future than the past, to be present. Because when I try to be present, I get super anxious because I'm not. And that's sad. It's, yeah. We made this a thing, like we make the growth of a business and the growth of our steps and the growth of our lifts and the growth of our calories a thing.
Yeah, yeah. And you and I both know through the art of living that one of the best ways to tap into our self-awareness is through breathing. It's through meditation. And Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who is the founder of this organization, he often says something that hits me so much every time I say it. He says, we can't master the mind at the level of the mind. We can't fix the brain at the level of the brain. We are constantly putting in effort. You know, that's what the American dream is all about. But what he's saying is we have to let go. The mind has to be relaxed to actually heal, to actually be in touch. What is the insight you can give us on this idea that we really should be not thinking of mastering the mind at the level of our logical, analytical, rational brain.
Yes. Well, I'll start by telling you what I told my friend this week. I said, buddy, the idea of being present is not that you have to perform the act of presence as much as you have to be a witness in every moment. And what you will witness is your mind is active. And you're going to have all sorts of crazy thoughts. And the more you will witness yourself, the more you will see that you're not those thoughts. Because you're observing it. You're the seer, you're the listener of those thoughts. And when you realize that, you realize that there is something else that you stand for. There is something else at the center of you that is moving who you are. And so for me, the practice of witnessing that comes from meditating, because meditation is nothing but witnessing. You're nothing, you want nothing, right? All of those things. When you are in that state where you do nothing, but just be there effortlessly, is when you can truly see you.
Yeah.
And it's as easy as that, and as difficult as that, because the mind is something that you have conditioned since you were 3, since 3 or 4. Your parents, your teachers, your coaches, your priests, your society has been telling you things about you, and you think that your identity is that.
Absolutely.
When your identity is to just be the love that is in your heart that you need to unlock. And so I don't know. I don't even know if it answers the question, but this is what I wanted to say about it.
Yes. I love that. I want to end with the last question on success. You know, our definition of success changes as we age. In our 20s, it's really driven by our ego. In our 30s, it evolves. In our 40s, when we have families, we get married, we get stable, it changes. What is success to you now? What's your definition of success now?
It's very, very, very simple. It gets simpler and simpler. Success for me now is the amount of reality that I can absorb in any moment, and the amount of words that I can eliminate. If I am present, and if my mind is not activated by 1,000 words that are coming at me that I need to fight for or try to explain, I get into a very nice state of contentment where I realize that as is, even in the emergency room, about to die, even at the emergency room with my mother last year, when you are in that moment fully, your heart fills with joy because that is your nature. And living an easy, joyful, centered life is the only definition of success that I'm willing to consider.
For more on how to find calm and freedom in a fast-paced world, hit the subscribe button below. And please share this wisdom with someone you love.